pool.
But if I curse, is that going to throw anybody off?
No, we cuss all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
All day long.
Yeah.
So
okay, and penis, vagina, masturbating, like cool, we're good. Okay.
Totally good.
Every once in a while I do these Christian podcasts and I got to be careful. So
Oh yeah, no, you can say whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
Whatever I fucking want.
Whatever you fucking want, whenever
Yes.
you fucking want to.
Yes. I mean, there's
if
a
penis
reason.
goes into a vagina.
Yes.
It gets wet and has fun.
Guess what, guys?
We're not doctors.
No, we are not.
If you're going to be making any major medical decisions, please consult your doctor.
That includes diets, exercise, medications, and surgery.
We love you guys.
And we want you to continue to be in our OSLP family forever.
So be careful and consult your doctors. Guys, we all need our vitamins after surgery, regardless of what you think.
Yes.
It's a must.
Yes. So why not choose the easiest and the best tasting in the community?
Seriously, it's ProCare, guys. ProCare
Duh.
is so delicious. I use their chewable for over a year. That's how I know.
Yes. And I love their capsules.
Yes.
Love them. They're
Yes.
once a day. I take them at night. Easy peasy. And my labs are fantastic.
Yeah, our labs are great. And I've actually switched to the capsules and I take those at night now. So if you guys need your iron, they have them with iron and they have them iron free. They even have calcium chews.
Yes. The calcium chews. Perfect. They have mocktail ones, chocolate. They have also some caramel and a cinnamon roll.
They're freaking delicious. So go over to procarenow.com and use our code OSLP to save some money. Guys, how do you get better prepared for your weight loss journey? Duh, by getting all the guesswork out of your portion control.
And Uba does that for you. They make portion control products like plates, bowls, portion containers, and even flatware. And they're porcelain, which means that they are oven, dishwasher, and microwave safe. No plastic.
Yeah, so go get your Uba containers now, my goodness. So you can either go to our link in our bio or you can just go over to their website. It is ubahome.co and that is ubahome.co and use OSLP for a discount.
All know how difficult post-op life can be.
Yeah, it's pretty freaking hard, guys.
Yes. And so a way to make it a little bit easier is by joining the T.R.I.B.E membership program. It has been created by a registered dietitian. She's actually the sleeve dietitian on Instagram. Her name is Jamie. And she's created this whole membership program just to support us.
Yeah, like we've had her on the podcast. We love her to freaking death. And then two, like she has full experts in their field that help you. And they've had bariatric surgery, almost every one of them.
Yes.
And the sleep dietitian is freaking smart because she has almost a support group every single day, guys.
Yes.
You're going to get an email. It's going to tell you which ones are for today. And you can just sign up and hang out with people that are just like you.
Mm-hmm.
And I've even used the journal prompts. I'm into journaling and that was way helpful to just go somewhere that can help you and just get your mind going.
Yes.
So if you need this kind of support, which a lot of us do, go to her website and use our code OSLP at checkout to get your discount. Welcome back, OSLP family. Welcome.
You are listening to our Sleeve Life podcast, and this is Kelly.
This is Mel.
And you guys at this point should know we are in the part of the year where we talk nonstop about this crazy award show that we put together.
Yes.
And we are at that time again. So we have an award show, and if you have been living under a rock, it is called the Just Be You Bariatric Award Show, where we honor people within our community that are showing the strength to divulge any and all aspects of their bariatric life.
Yeah, that they inspire others. They show up for themselves. They show up for other people.
Yes.
And we just want to shine a light on the community because, you know, no one sees us over here and then they make fun of us all day. So
exactly.
It's annoying.
And nominations at this point are closed, but we are getting ready to open up the voting.
That's
so
right.
we will have top 5 people this year. Last year we did 4. So we're going to open it up to another person.
Yeah, we heard
this year.
your feedback.
Yes.
We got it. That's why we love doing surveys. So we know what to change. And that was a big one. People wanted to have in top 5 instead of top 4.
So we added top 5
there
in
you go.
and voting is going to be starting soon.
Yep.
So you want to keep an eye on the jbyawards.com.
Yep.
That's where all the updates will be happening. And then also go to oursleevelifepodcast.com and sign up for the emails, because then you will be notified.
I was going to say that's the easiest way.
All the time.
Just be on our email list, and then you're going to get the first pick of tickets. You get the first pick of knowing where things are. You get the first pick of when voting is. Like,
yes.
Everything goes through there.
And tickets are available now. So go to jbyawards.com, get your ticket, book your hotel. It is going to be a long weekend full of fun, and we have so many activities planned. You are going to walk away from that weekend saying, damn, that was the best fucking weekend ever.
Seriously, because we have some pretty cool things coming your way. And with the venue itself, it's the Howard Theater in Washington, D.C. It's beautiful,
it's amazing.
Guys. And they're literally going to make sure that it's catered. We're going to make sure you have a dance floor. You're going to have a photo booth,
two
DJs,
bars.
2 freaking bars. And the top one, if you actually buy the seats that are on the balcony, it's premier balcony seating. Then you get to just do your little camera on your QR code, and then you get table service.
Yes, you get table service. Those are only available in
Bundles.
groups of 4 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
So go talk to your berry besties, figure it out, buy those booths, because those are going to be the best ever. But if you are in general admission, it is also a great show for you, because you'll be down in the mix of everything.
And that's where you want to be too.
Yeah. And we want to, of course, thank our sponsor, our top sponsor this year. They were our top sponsor last year. You guys know ProCare. We love them.
Yes.
Great vitamins, great company, and they are supporting another great party for our community. They
support us and you guys.
Yes.
Like, they're all about bariatrics. Like, if you ever go to their website, it's procarenow.com, and literally use OSLP or JBY 2023. That actually gets you a higher discount.
Yes.
But everything's geared toward bariatric people, even gut health, even if you're pregnant, they have prenatals that are just for you.
Wound support,
thyroid support.
Yeah.
Like, if you think about it, they have it.
Yes,
so
exactly.
Go check them out, because they are just freaking the best.
Yeah. And you want to go over to patreon.com/OSLP. You want to become a Benchie, because there's so many perks that come along with it, including the weekend of JBY. We have lots of perks for the Benchies. So you want to go over there, sign up. You'll get admitted into our Facebook support group, where there are over 200 other bariatric patients, and you can ask questions and comment and create bonds with these people. It's fantastic. So you want to definitely do that.
Yeah, because they get a discount on the tickets. They actually get their own free brunch from us on that Sunday, and we get to hang out with them the whole time.
Yes.
And then they do get monthly meetings with us. Like, we have one today that we're going to do this afternoon with them. So there's just so much that they get, and they get to know everything beforehand, and they get access to everything before the public does.
Yes.
So we want to thank our patrons a lot, because if it wasn't for our patrons, our bills would not get paid. So
that's
very true.
For real. And then also go over to YouTube, and because YouTube is a free way to support us.
Yes.
You just go over to there, type in oursleevelifepodcast.com, or not the .com, just the Our Sleeve Life Podcast, and hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell, so you get notified for future videos like this one, because we have a really cool guest on today.
We do.
And we flew through the intro because we want to just get to this episode.
I know. This one's going to be so fun.
So welcome on. I don't want to butcher your name.
Everybody butchers my name. Sheva Marcus. Sheva is my first name. Marcus is my last name. Okay. Everybody thinks Sheva because it's 2 words, they think, but it's like Billie Jean. It's Sheva Marcus.
Okay. All right. And you are a sex therapist.
I am.
So excited.
I am the sex therapist.
The only one that's been on this podcast.
That is for sure.
Yes.
And thus the only real one, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, and you've also written a book about sex.
I have. Satisfaction Guaranteed, How to Have the Sex You've Always Wanted. And it's geared for women who want to fix their sex life, which is pretty much all of us at some point in our lives, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
For sure.
Let's start it off with, how did you become a sex therapist?
Yeah.
Before we get into the all nitty gritty questions,
what's really unusual about the fact that I became a sex therapist, I grew up in a Jewish Orthodox household. I still am Orthodox. I know.
Wow.
I know everybody's like in shock when they hear that.
Oh,
yes.
And I got zero sex education, like most of us.
Yeah.
And really felt bewildered and pissed off, to be honest, about having had no sex education, and went into a different field for a little while and then pivoted and went into sex therapy. I went back and I got a master. I have a master's in social work. I have a master's in public health. I have a master's in Jewish studies and a PhD in human sexuality.
Whoa.
And I know, a lot of degrees. My kids make fun of it. And my dissertation was on vibrator use in women. So, and I wrote it 25 years ago before everybody was using vibrators. Like, and it's quoted in lots of places because there was nobody doing research on it at the time.
Yeah.
So I did that. And for 25 years, I built basically and ran one of the largest sexual health centers in the United States. And what can I keep going or am I going on?
Yeah, we're like, mind blown.
Yeah.
I am just like, I talk a lot. So just interrupt me whenever it gets irritating. Okay.
All right.
Anyway, so I was the clinical director of this huge sexual health center, what was really unusual about it, and which I think your listeners really need to get a handle on, is that we are sitting at the dawn of where the physiological and the psychological are coming together, right? Like for so many years, everybody treated women's sexual issues as if like it was all psychological, right? If she's not interested in sex, it's because, people use terms like frigid, but like either there was trauma in her history or there's problems in the relationship. And that's the kind of like bullshit. Like sometimes those things are absolutely true. And sometimes your hormones are getting in the way, your birth control pills are getting in the way. There's a million things that are happening. And when you start to understand that the medical or the physiological and the psychological, when they work together, you get results that are just dramatic. And so the work that I was doing with women was really, really groundbreaking and amazing. And we got fabulous results. And I was getting calls from like all over the world, not the United States also, but like just everywhere where people were asking me questions. And I was like, I got to put this into a book.
Yeah.
So I wrote the book and I started with a questionnaire to make it super easy for people to kind of figure out what the problems are and where they're coming from. And I tried to take a lot of really complicated concepts and make them super easy and fun and easy to talk about. And I want people to feel like they're sitting across the table from me when they read this book, like that. It's like a friend. So
I love that.
That's a little bit about me.
Oh, wow. There's so much to dissect there.
Unfold there. Okay. So
you're speechless.
I know.
That does not happen to us very often.
No,
not at all.
I'm thinking the vibrator thing throws people out. We could start anywhere you want. We could talk about low desire, why women get stuck with low desire, with problems with arousal, why they can't get turned on.
I guess we could
fantasies. We can talk about the whole everything that goes down with fantasies and women's problem with that. We can talk about vibrators. We talk about
Wow.
So let's start here.
I want to start with the very beginning, like why sex education is the way it is.
Yeah, that's basically.
Yeah, because I know my mom didn't talk to me about sex. I had no idea about that. I knew that there was a penis. I knew there was a vagina. And I knew they had to go with each other. But other than that, I had no idea.
I was so removed that I didn't even realize that like there's a hole down there for that. I thought it was just my pee hole and then my butthole. For a long time.
Yeah, no, definitely. The truth is you're way ahead of the game if you know there's a penis in the vagina and the penis goes into the vagina. Seriously, I feel like they're like, why is sex education so terrible? So that is a amazing question. And it's a really, really hard question for me to answer. I think it comes down to the fact that people are just really uncomfortable talking about this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so the parents kind of push it off on the schools and the schools kind of push it off on the parents. And, I am a huge, huge advocate of parents talking to kids and starting like super young, like at age 2, like with body parts and really like, because then it's less uncomfortable. Right.
Yeah.
And like that sex education. And this is, I'm always saying to parents, it's not like you sit somebody down when they're 12 and you have, or 11. By then, first of all, it's way late. But second of all, can you imagine? And, all of us who've done sleeve surgery and have struggled with weight issues can get this one. Can you imagine if when you were 12 years old, your parents sat you down and for the first time they said, okay, we want to just tell you what like macronutrients and micronutrients. This is what a calorie is. This is what a vegetable is, right? And that's it. We're having this half-hour conversation, and that's what you're going to learn about nutrition. Well,
that would
that's
be wild.
bullshit, right? Like you're growing up, you're seeing what your parents are choosing and what they're eating. And you're talking about food and you're making dinner with your mom or your dad and you're going to restaurants and you're talking about food all the time. It's integrated into your life.
Yeah.
And sex should be exactly that way. If we could get there, if we get to a place where we're super comfortable, then you're talking to your kids like, why does this feel good? Why does that not feel good? Why did this person call this other person this name? Like, what does it mean when I see these two women kissing or these two men kissing? Or like, you know what I mean? Like it just becomes a very natural conversation. And if you start when the kids are little, it makes the conversation so much easier and it makes your kids able to talk to you. So I think people are just uncomfortable. And honestly, it's not just the parents. It's not doctors are uncomfortable. That's what's so scary to me. And doctors and therapists, right? Like I'm a therapist, but I'm a general therapist who also does sex therapy. But like, I cannot tell you how many couples counselors out there are uncomfortable talking about sex. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like I can see I'll see a woman and, you know, she hasn't had sex in a year and I'm like with her husband and I'll be like, oh, okay. What is your couples counselor like? Cause you've been in therapy for 6 months. And she'd be like, oh, it never came up. And I'm like, how are you freaking kidding me? That person should be disbarred. You know, it's like,
oh my goodness.
Anyway, so I don't know why sex education sucks, but like, let's change it, girls.
Yeah, for sure.
And my other main question before we get to the other ones is just like, why is sex so important?
Yeah.
Okay. So that is probably my favorite question. I love that question because, you know, I think being able to be sexual, either with yourself or with a partner, changes the whole tenor of your life. Like it's so fundamental to who we are. It changes your relationship. It changes the way you feel about your partner. It changes the way you feel about yourself. It makes you feel alive. I think we all kind of know this in a certain way. Like when we're not sexually excited, interested, available, when we haven't had access to our sexuality, we just don't feel as alive as we do when we do have access to our sexuality. You know, and I'll often say like,
prepping and measuring your food post-op is a beast all in itself. But Portion Perfection has actually made it super, super simple. They have bowls, plates, and even a lunch bag called the Kit and Carry where you can have all of the system ready to go.
Yeah, we love carrying that thing around with us. It's so much easier to pack your lunch, your snacks, especially when you're on a road trip. That thing is a lifesaver.
Yes.
So if you want to get these things to help your journey, just go over to portionperfection.com and use our code 15OSL pod. And again, that's 15OSL pod. And you can also go over to our Amazon storefront to pick out any of those that you would like to use.
We found a company that was founded by a bariatric surgeon for his patients. He is just trying to make their lives easier. And so they have created a whole array of snacks and dinners and just all the foods you could possibly want that have protein in them and are delicious.
Yeah. And they're so freaking good that we took them on tour with us because we tried them on a live. So you guys can always go back and watch that. And we liked every single bar.
We were shocked.
We don't want you guys to miss out. So go over to Barilife.com, use OSLP and get your discount.
While we were in Florida, we got to visit one of our favorite bariatric surgeons, Dr. Donald Fridley at Surgical Associates at Bayonet Point. And when we say that they are patient focused, they are patient freaking focused. They tailor make all their plans to the unique needs of each patient.
It's an in-body scanner.
We both got to use it.
We both got to use it. And you get to do it pre-op and post-op. So that way you can see all the differences and all the changes that happen. And he's also one of the surgeons that does his surgery with robotics. And we got to play with that
We
too.
did.
So we were
so cool.
We were so excited. And we want you to have such a special care that they give. So go over to SABPweightloss.com right now.
Or give their office a call at 727-819-9107.
That's right. So, and tell them that the OSLP girls sent you and they're going to take great care of you.
Yeah.
I didn't go into this field because I'm so fascinated by body part A and how it fits into body part B, although that is interesting and we will talk about that.
Good.
But I'm interested in what it does to you as a person, to you and your relationship. I mean, we all know this, like any of us who've been in relationships where there was no sex for a time, it just changes the nature of the relationship and ourselves. We feel differently about ourselves when we're feeling hot and sexy and like we're connected to our sexual selves. Don't you guys think? You tell me.
100%.
I always feel better when I'm having sex on a normal basis, and I feel like more confident, like my self-esteem is higher. I feel sexy. Like it's a whole thing. Like you can like see it on someone. Yeah. I think that's probably the glow that people see. It's just them just
it's a whole thing. And for anybody listening, you could be having sex with yourself. Solo sex is great sex too. You know, your favorite best partner. So yes. So that is why I think sex is important. I really, really do. Not to mention the fact that it's also healthy. Honestly, your vagina is like a lose it or use it, as is your penis. So like, you know, there's a lot of reasons why it's important physically, but I think emotionally and existentially, like it is so cool when you're feeling alive sexually.
Oh yeah. What do you mean by if you don't use it, you lose it? For vaginas and penises.
Yeah, no, you're let's start with the vagina. Yeah. We talked about the penis also, but when you talk about the vagina, it has a certain elasticity to it, right? It goes up and it opens and closes, and you need a certain blood flow into the area, and you need nerve ending flow into the area. And that keeps it kind of plump and functioning. And if you don't use a vagina for, I don't know, a year, let's say, or 6 months or a year or longer, the muscles tighten up. Stuff is all fixable. I want to tell anybody if anybody's having a panic attack.
I mean, I'm literally having a panic attack.
I know.
Okay. I'm like, did I break it?
No. It got a little rusty maybe, and we're going to get it unrusty.
Okay.
But basically you need to be able to get that mucosa, or that what you think of it as a skin inside the vagina, all plumped back out again, because you need blood in that area. And sometimes the muscles tighten up, and that makes it hurt when you try to have intercourse. Okay. So you have to stretch that. But there is it like any other part of your body. Like think about it. If you didn't use your legs for a year, your legs would not function the way they should. And
so our vagina atrophies?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, it does.
But it gets tighter.
But you can get it back again.
Okay.
Tighter's not good. Did you say tighter like that as in that'll be good if it's tighter?
Yeah. Is that what we're saying?
She's like, no,
okay.
No, it's not.
So I just want you to know, when you think of your vagina, it's not like there's a hole there. It's like it's a potential space. Think a turtleneck sweater, right? Okay. Something goes through, opens and closes. You want it to be flexible. You want it to be able to open and close and open and close. And if it gets tight, then it's just going to hurt when something goes in there.
Oh,
now you can retrain it. Okay. Now, just the same thing about the penis. The penis gets less flexible if it's not used. If it doesn't have regular erections, then it can become, the skin can become much less flexible. And, it also needs.
I'm literally like reliving my whole ex-marriage. Like,
yeah,
I'm sorry.
No, it's like, because we went a long time in between sex, and I couldn't.
That's an ex-marriage.
But every time we would, like, it would be like once every 6 months, and it would hurt. And I wasn't, I didn't know why that was. I thought I was just like, I'm like, I just don't want sex.
Right. You think you thought you just weren't turned on.
Yeah.
Because you weren't, which might've been the case also. And maybe you weren't getting lubricated, but honestly, if you don't use that vagina, it does tighten up. And that's why there's dilators that are easy to use, but there's dildos you can use. There's internal vibrators you could use. So there's so many ways to get around that if you're not currently with a partner, or a partner with a penis, maybe. Okay. So it's not a big deal. It's just something I think we really need to stay clear about.
Oh yeah. Cause I didn't know any of that.
Nope.
So that's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So point number one.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, use it or lose it.
Use it or lose it. Okay. So then if you're feeling not turned on, you don't really, like, for me, I'm not good at initiating at all. Like, I don't feel like, I feel awkward when I'm initiating. And so it's very hard for me to get to a point where I'm like, yes, I want to have sex. Like, it's always like, okay, fine. And then I enjoy it once I have it, but it's that initial. Mm-hmm. So what do you do if you're like not being turned on at all, or a situation like that?
Yeah. Cause I've actually heard her tell a partner, do you want to have sex now or later? Like, she's told me that.
Wait, why is that? Tell me why that's bad.
No, but like they were like just talking, and she said it like nonchalantly.
We were kissing. And I was like, do you want to have sex now, or do you want to have it later?
Right. I think that sounds very
well. He was upset about it. That's why.
He got very upset about that.
Because it sounded too transactional, like it sounded too business-like.
Yeah.
As opposed to, oh my God, you're so hot, I need to have you now.
Probably.
I guess. Yeah. I'm like, I don't talk like that at all. So
okay, well, we got to work on that, dear.
There's a lot of things that I need to work on.
So you have raised so many issues right now. I'm trying to figure out how to parse them to actually be helpful. No, I think they're amazing questions. Yep. So first of all, I think people have to understand, and maybe this will help you understand it too, that there's two different things. Like desire and arousal are two different things, right? One is wanting to have sex, and one is getting turned on when you're having sex. Now, they are related, right? Like if you don't get turned on and the sex isn't good, you may not want to have sex.
Okay.
But there are plenty of people who get turned on, have good sex, and still kind of don't want it. That's a desire issue.
That's
right?
That's where I'm at.
Okay. Now, that is different from I feel shy and uncomfortable initiating, which is like everybody in the world. And we can talk about why that is.
Okay.
Right? Okay. So it's so funny. I was just going to do a whole series on Instagram about this because I just am getting like people jumping on me like, oh my, because I said something about how hard it is for everybody to initiate. And I got like, oh my God, I feel so shy. I feel so uncomfortable. I don't know how to do it. Anyway.
I love it.
So that feels like a slightly different question than I never kind of seem to be in the mood, which is sort of what you're saying. Like when I get going, I get turned on. And you have orgasms.
Yeah.
Do you mind my asking personal questions? Is that okay?
We're open books.
Okay. So you get turned on, you have an orgasm, but then you kind of don't necessarily want to do it again.
Yeah. It's not like it's like one and done for me. Like I'm just like, okay, I did that.
Okay. That's fine. We're good. Yeah. Okay. So that honestly, you hear that a lot. Are you in a relationship now? Like a long-term relationship?
Yeah.
So did you feel differently in the beginning of the relationship than you do now?
No, I think in the beginning it was but I hadn't had sex in like a year and a half, I think at that point. So it was like, I kind of like, and I got turned on by my partner. And so I mean, yes, it has changed. I would say, yeah, it has changed. Like in the beginning, I was more like, okay, let's have 4 or 5 sex sessions in one day. And now I'm like, 2 a week. That's fine. Like,
okay. So let me get some things, everything is, I love it when people ask me what's normal. And I'm like, everything's normal. If it works for you, 4 or 5 sex sessions one day is a hell of a lot for most people. Like when you're looking at a bell curve, it's like way on the one side of the bell curve. So you should feel like fast. I mean, I think that's great. Like, go you. Okay.
Yeah, if you can do it.
Yeah, exactly. And keeping up that kind of level would be kind of unlikely. So just so you know what the statistics are, there's data actually on this, believe it or not.
Wow.
And it's so funny because I did a TikTok on this, got 1 million views. Like it's just for some reason, this was what everybody wanted to hear. Whoa. I don't get that many views on most of what I do. Trust me. So it was like, how often is normal to have sex is the question, right? Like how often do you have sex? Right? So this study finally came out. It's a really excellent study with large. And it said basically the happiness level of couples went up the more they had sex until it hit once a week. And after that, it plateaued. Now, this is averages, right? So there's going to be some couples who want to have sex 5 times a week. And there's so many couples who want to have sex once every other week. But on the whole, people in relationships were happier in those relationships when they had sex at least once a week is what it came down to.
Okay.
So, and that gives you and my experience with couples is that usually in long-term relationships, sex once or twice a week keeps couples like in a good place and connected. And when it gets to be less than once every other week, that's when sort of the cracks start to show.
Okay.
Again, that's very like, it can still be very individual. I would say that, but honestly, those seem like the numbers that are like pretty defendable.
Okay.
Because I was telling Kel for a long time, I was like, I have like a 3-day rule. Like after 3 days, we need to have sex.
So you are pointing out something else that's so critical, which I'm going to jump. I mean, there's so much to talk about that I feel like I'm jumping from one thing to another. So feel free to yank me back, Okay. All right. So I often talk about scheduling sex, like putting sex on the schedule. Now, a lot of sex therapists will talk about this. As a matter of fact, it's probably the number one thing that sex therapists will talk about. I am going to stop you for 1 second because my phone keeps dinging and I don't know how the hell that's happening. So can I, you have to edit this out, but I'm just going to turn it off. Okay, hold on.
You do you.
That's so funny. So much. There's so much happening right now.
So much.
And it's like feeding my soul right now.
I love it.
I'm like, I didn't break it. Thank God.
We didn't break our vaginas. Our vaginas are not broken.
Exactly.
I am so sorry about that. And I was trying to ignore it and I was like, okay, that's not going to work.
No,
okay.
You're fine. You're fine.
Okay.
It happens to us all the time.
Okay. So let's talk about, so people talk about scheduling sex. And now, why do you schedule sex? Especially, right. And what I will say, people think, oh my God, that sounds so terribly unsexy, like scheduling sex. And this goes back a little bit to what you're saying when you said, do you want to have sex now or do you want to have sex later? Like it sort of feels like sort of too prosaic, but like scheduling sex makes sure that in our busy lives, when we are taking care of parents, kids, work, travel, spouses, that sex just doesn't fall off the radar screen, right? Like we need to know that we're having sex on some kind of regular basis. And when people say, oh my God, scheduling sex, that sounds terrible, I will laugh and I will say, whenever I talk to a couple who's been in a long-term monogamous relationship, and they'll say, we don't schedule sex. And I'll be like, oh, okay. Like, so like, when do you have sex? And they'll say, oh, usually like once on the weekend and maybe Wednesday. Or they'll say exactly what you just said. We don't really let 3 days or 4 days go by. Then it's time to have sex. Of course you're scheduling it. You don't realize you're scheduling it, but you are scheduling it. Like you're putting it on the schedule. And what that does is it sets it up so that both people kind of know it's going to happen and have an idea of when it's going to happen and can kind of get themselves ready, which just goes back to, I think it was Mel, which one of you said, like, I don't ever feel like it.
That's Kel.
Kel said that. Okay. So, I think the reality is that, you know, we have sort of very twisted ideas about like that this is going to be pixie dust. It's going to fall down on us. It's going to make us want to have sex. And that just is really not the way our bodies work and not the way our minds work. And it does sometimes work that way early in a relationship. So then we get doubly fooled, but that's because your hormones are coursing. There's a million things happening in the early stages of a relationship that don't happen regularly during the, you know, and we're less, you know, busy. We're totally focused on the other person. Our minds are like racing with sexy thoughts. We have a lot of conversations to talk about fantasies. So, you know, so it seems like it's totally natural and normal to sort of get yourself ready to have sex, to be thinking about sex and fantasizing about it in order to sort of start getting turned on. And then that makes you want to have sex. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because like I'll start thinking like the 3-day thing. I'll be like, okay, it's been 3 days. I'm going to try something tonight. That's kind of what happens in my brain. And yeah, I'll think about it all day, like the things that I want to do or try. And then like, I'm ready, like literally like when it's nighttime or when it's the right time of the day, like I'm ready to go.
You could just write a paper on that because that is like the way to that is the way to keep a long-term sex life going, right? Like once upon a time, we thought, because, you know, Masters and Johnson had this beautiful little like schematic where like you have desire to have sex, then you introduce the stimuluses that turn you on, you get aroused, you have an orgasm. That's a great model. Well, that model does not describe what most women talk about. Most women talk about the fact that like they need to make a decision that they want to have sex for some reason. It's going to make them feel good. It's going to be relaxing, closer to their partner, whatever it is. There's a reason they want to have sex. And before they even want to have sex, they introduce those stimuluses. They'll kiss their partner. They'll fantasize. They'll think about the things they want to do that day, that night. They'll put on some sexy underwear, whatever it is that turns them on. And once they're turned on, then the desire kicks in. Right. And then the desire kicks in, they'll bring in more stimulation, they'll get more turned on, there's more desire, there's more arousal. Hopefully there's an orgasm or whatever it is they wanted. And they get those ends, that feeling of relax, whatever it was that they wanted. And so that makes them want to start the cycle again. And that it really is a much better way to describe women's desire, I think, than
there you go.
Then that pixie dust where you wake up and you're like, oh my God, where's my husband? I mean, that happens sometimes.
Yeah.
Where's my partner? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's sometimes where I initiate and I want it, but the majority of the time I'm just like, it just seems like a lot of work.
Right. So the other thing I will say to you is that we are understanding how much hormones really impact our sex life. Like you know how you sometimes see like two 17-year-olds and they can't keep their hands off each other.
Yes.
And like, you know, you don't think to yourself, oh my God, they must have had a really meaningful conversation just now.
No,
right?
Never.
or he probably bought her a flower. You don't think that. You think, oh my God, their hormones are raging.
Yeah.
And they are. But then when we hit our 30s somehow, or 40s or 50s or 60s, whatever it is, somehow nobody is willing to say, oh, maybe there's hormonal issues going on here.
Yeah.
And there are, and women need testosterone. We think of testosterone as a male hormone. Women need that. You know, our birth control can have a huge impact on our hormonal, you know, profile. There's a million things that can be bringing down our hormones, which make you kind of not want to have sex or not interested in sex.
What about the women that have like PCOS or any of those autoimmune diseases? So
that is a great question. And there's still a lot of research happening with that. But very often the women who have PCOS to start with actually do have good sex drives because they have more testosterone than other people. That's why they often have a little more hair growth. They have acne, all of those things but then they get put on this testosterone blocking medication and that can kill their sex drive. As does birth control pills, just so you know that. Like, and I am not anti-birth control pills. I'm a big fan of them, but for a lot of women, they have a secondary impact of raising, I don't want to get too technical, but SHBG, the sex hormone binding globulin, the protein that binds your testosterone and doesn't make it usable. And so a lot of women find that when they go on birth control, after a while, their libido just collapses.
Oh no. I just got on the pill. I got on a low dose hormone pill though.
Just keep an eye on it is what I always say. Like some women, it does not impact. The two things, if you go on a birth control, any kind of hormonal birth control, the two things you really need to keep an eye on are, has it affected your libido? Like, are you interested in having sex?
Yes, she is.
Oh, well, I mean, I'm a horny toad over here, and it has.
Good.
That's what I'm saying,
and it hasn't totally stay that way.
Yeah, so far it hasn't changed. So far,
I'm saying this is where women, the more you are educated, the more you can make your own decisions, right? So keep an eye on that. And the second thing to keep an eye on is your vagina, because it also changes your estrogen levels, and your estrogen level really has an impact on your vagina. And sometimes people start having pain because their vagina gets more dry and ephemeral, like more tissue papery. Now, again, some people do not, it doesn't happen to birth control. Like there are millions and millions of women on birth control who are fine, but physicians don't always tell women what to keep an eye out for.
Yeah.
So a woman will come in and she'll be like, it's so weird. I just started having pain every time I have intercourse. And I'm like, I got on birth control pill a year ago and I keep asking my doctor and he says, there's nothing to do with it. And I'm like, that's bullshit. Get off the birth control pill. Let's get you an IUD. Do you know what I mean? Like, so that's where you have to just be an educated consumer.
Yeah.
And now I know that I have just been all over the place. So I apologize.
No, you're answering.
No, this is good. So I have 4 autoimmune diseases and I take several medications. So do the medications that I take or the autoimmune
diseases themselves,
do those make a difference in sex drive?
So everybody's a little bit different, but in both, the answer to both could be a yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And so what you may want to do, if you have to be on your autoimmune medications and you did not choose to have these autoimmune diseases, right? Like, so the trick is always to understand that you can work around everything. Like I really feel like you can work around everything. So in your case, it sounds like you're functioning fine. You get really aroused. You have orgasms. It's just that like getting you to that point where the interest, that desire factors on there. So first of all, you may want to look into taking testosterone because it is not contraindicated for many, many things. And you can absolutely take testosterone. So that's number one. Okay. And it's something to think about. The other thing is that when we learn, and it's a real learning process to use our brain properly and also to go into it with the thing we were saying before, which is that like, okay, I want to have sex. I want to have sex because it's good for me. It's good for my partner. And so I'm going to figure out, I know I'm going to try to have sex like Monday and Wednesdays or whatever I'm doing. And so I'm going to focus on the things that make me want to have sex. If that's taking a bath, if that's taking a dance class, if that's you know what I mean? Like realize that you're going to have to do a little bit of, pushing yourself to get yourself to have sex, but then it's good once you know what? Think about it exactly like exercise, really. It's not going to be like, there's no way that you're going to always want to get off that sofa and go for that walk or run or right. But 2 things. First is, that if you have a regular exercise regime, it's going to make you feel great. You're going to feel great at the end of the exercise thing. It's going to do fabulous things for you. You're going to feel really good about it. And you also know if you find things that you enjoy doing, it makes it easier to do it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So, and given all that, there's still going to be sometimes you're like, do I really have to get off the sofa? But you know what? Like, but most of the time you're going to be like, okay, I'm off to my Zumba class, or okay, I'm going to I'm going to go do that, weightlifting class because it's a lot of fun and I can't, we're going to go rollerblading or whatever it is that I do. And so think about your sex life like that. Like it is a really good, important piece of your life. And you want to embrace it and make it as fun as you can. And also just appreciate the fact that it has so many positive benefits that it's like worth the effort.
Okay.
I like that.
Yeah.
Like
that's really cool.
Yeah.
I like it. Okay. So we have the answers to that. What other questions do we have?
A lot of people are talking about sex drive. Why some people, when they have bariatric surgery, when they prior have a sex drive and then afterwards don't, or vice versa. Because mine went through the roof after.
Yeah.
So, but we hear lots of people, it goes down. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's what's happening. Again, this is so hormonal, right? And we know that there's dramatic hormonal shifts from bariatric surgery. And depending on the kind of surgery you have, you're having different shifts. But we know that those, we know that because of the way our hunger acts differently, our insulin acts differently. Like there's so many hormonal shifts. And so everybody's going to be a little bit different in this one. So there's the hormonal shifts that we cannot, you can't underestimate those. Those are dramatic. That's number one. Okay. And then there's the self, the idea of the self, the beforehand. Now testosterone that I talked about before is actually stored in fat cells. So it is, that's why the PCOS women often gain weight, right? Right. So it is possible that people feel like they were more horny or more interested in sex before the surgery because they're not actually losing fat cells, but the fat cells are just shrinking. So, but the testosterone, I'm sure their testosterone level is going to be much lower after the surgery. So for some women, that's going to have that impact, right? Okay. For some women, there was too much inflammation. And so they couldn't actually access their testosterone. And so they're going to feel like that's better. And we can't forget the fact that there's some women who just feel different after the surgery. Like I feel attractive. I feel sexy. Some women who feel like, oh my God, I don't know who I am anymore. Right. Like there's all of those pieces that we really have to be very like respectful and explore with women. People assume, oh my God, she went from a size 22 to a size, 10. Of course she's going to feel more sexy. Well, not really. Not if she feels like now she's exposed. Right. Yeah. Like the fat actually kept her like safe in a certain way. And now it feels much less safe. So we've got to kind of look at that also. So it could really go both ways. And working with a competent therapist can really, first of all, just being really kind to yourself and being understanding that it takes time and you're going to figure this out. And everybody's sex life is always changing. So you're not crazy. Like that's a really important piece. And then working with a therapist who really is comfortable and competent with this is like, it's life-changing because you can sort of explore the fact that like, well, now I look so much sexier. Everybody expects me to be sexier and I don't feel sexier. So what the fuck is wrong with me? Yeah. Right? Like
I've actually heard Kelly say that.
It makes so much sense to me though, because that's exactly what happened. I went from a size probably 22 to 18, 22, to a size like 2 at my lowest. But I know it was crazy.
Wild.
But I didn't feel sexy and I didn't know who I was because I was number one in a really bad abusive marriage and I didn't know I was in an abusive marriage. So I was kind of like I was floundering after because I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I liked. I didn't know anything. And then I got like my husband left me, my ex-husband. And then I even felt even more exposed and more embarrassed because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, yeah, I'm a size 2, but I don't feel any sexier.
Right.
And that feels like such a failure in our society, right?
Yeah.
Because size 2s are supposed to feel really sexy.
Yeah.
And size 22s aren't supposed to feel sexy. Both messages are horrible. Yeah. Like, there's a lot of really hot, sexy 22s floating out there. And there's a lot of, not so hot, sexy twos floating around. But,
seriously.
you know, when I hear a story like that, the first thing I think also is like, think about the hormonal shift of going from a 22 to a 2. Like you probably had no testosterone left. You know what I mean? I don't even know what was happening with your estrogen. And then on top of it, to feel like so like exposed, you don't know what you're doing. You're supposed to be different. Like those are so like, it's almost making me like cry as I hear, because I just feel like, I just feel like it speaks to so many of us in terms of the shift that happens in our bodies, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, when you also bring in the side of like, my husband left me, and then I'm like, and he pinpointed the fact that we didn't have sex enough. And so then I felt like a failure with that. So then how do I like gain back that control?
How did you? It sounds like you did.
I mean, a little bit, but I mean, I still battle with it because I don't feel like I feel awkward. I feel like I don't know my system. And then I mean, there's so many levels to this. It's crazy. I got divorced and then I started gaining weight. So then I gained 60 pounds back. And then, but that was while I was with my current boyfriend. But so I never felt sexy because I was gaining this weight back. And I was like, but I wasn't sexy at 2.
Right.
So why am I not feeling sexy at a size 12, 13? Now I'm losing weight again, but I still don't feel sexy. So like, there's still like all these different levels.
What's so important is that feeling sexy has nothing to do with how you look. If I could say that 3 times, well, feeling sexy has nothing to do with how you look. It just doesn't. Like, you know what I mean? Like I've had clients who by every stretch of the imagination are not what we as a society would think of as like hot and sexy, you know, just cute or whatever. And they feel hot and sexy and they're just like little magnets. Do you know what I mean? Like they're just getting like seriously.
Yeah.
And then I've had women who walk in who are like sex pots, like exactly what you think, you know, and they're like, they're not having any sex. They're not feeling sexy. They don't feel good about themselves. They feel like on top of it, they feel like frauds because everybody assumes that they're like having great sex.
Yep.
So we need to realize that reclaiming your sexiness is just something we could do at any size.
Yeah.
Like you can do that at any size, whether you're, you know, whatever size you're wearing today, you know, loving your body and feeling sexy is totally doable. You just need to learn how to do it.
So what I'm hearing is that feeling sexy is more like in your mind.
It's a mindset.
Yes.
It's a mindset.
It's a mindset. It's totally the mindset. I mean, it's that your mind is also affected by your hormones, to be honest. And your mind is also affected by the medical, but it is a mindset. And I want to add one other thing about feeling awkward. This is a message I try to get out all the time on social media, everywhere, because it so enrages me because I feel like this message is so screwed up. If you're feeling awkward, you're on the right track, right? Where did we get this idea that sex is supposed to be the super comfortable? Everything's like, you know, you feel 100% in, you know, and comfortable. That sounds boring to me. That sounds like somebody's slippers, right? Like it's not, that's not what you want. When you think about the best sex, it's usually early in the relationship when you're feeling a little awkward, a little nervous, a little uncomfortable. I'm not talking about being scared for your life here. You know what I'm saying? I'm not talking about fear, or I'm talking about like, somehow we've gotten the message that you should not feel awkward, that sex should be 100% comfortable, but that takes it takes all the edge off of it. And that is not, so if you're feeling awkward, I'm saying like you go in the right direction, you're going in the right direction. You know, like I'm working with women who've been married for years and they're like, I think it would be really fun to be tied up or tie him up. Right. And they're like, I can't tell it. Like, I feel so embarrassed. Like it's going to be so awkward. And I'm like, if it feels awkward, embrace the awkward. If it feels awkward, you are heading in the right direction, girl. Right. Like you don't want super repetitive, known, comfortable sex. Like sometimes you want that, but not
every time. Yeah.
If you feel really awkward doing something, then that's great. Then do it.
Okay.
All right.
That's great advice because I already have a few scenarios in my head. So
embrace the awkward, girl.
Like good awkward?
The awkward. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Like of things that you don't necessarily, like you pops in your head and you're like, no, I couldn't do that. That's too awkward. Like I would look stupid doing that or whatever thoughts pop into
What
the head.
I've learned lately is the dudes don't care. what you look like.
Well, they don't care if your legs are shaved. They don't care if you're they don't care.
They don't care. They want to have sex with you. Like if they're in the moment of having sex with you, they're not going to be like, oh, there's too many rolls right there on that left side, but not on the right side. It doesn't even compute to them.
Yeah.
It's amazing that you're able to, because I cannot tell you how often I've had clients who are they're like, I hate my stomach. My boyfriend thinks it's so hot and he loves it. And he loves to squish my little belly. And I'm like, you're an idiot. You're so stupid. I'm like, can you hear the fact that he does think it's hot and sexy? Can you hear that? But we're so programmed not to hear that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I mean, it's just, it's funny because it's when you're talking about where did we learn that it needed to be this super serious thing, I think it's from movies, it's from books, it's from all of these things that tell us that the stars have to align for you to have sex and to enjoy it, and you have to connect, and you're not allowed to laugh, and you're not allowed to play when you have sex. That's kind of what I
think
my
you're
view
right.
is. Yeah.
I really embrace the awkward. I think we should make t-shirts up that say embrace the awkward. I just do.
I like it. Yeah. We can get those made.
Oh yeah. No problem with that. I got you covered.
Love it. Here is one of the questions from our patron. So struggling with orgasms after losing weight, especially in public area? Hold on.
Pubic area?
In the pubic area, yeah. I've never had an issue, but now it seems it's always being a struggle.
So, it's very hard to answer that question without more information, to be honest with you. But let me start by saying this. One of the things that is this mythological is the idea that most women have orgasms from intercourse, from penis and the vagina, right? Mm-hmm. Can we just toss that one out the window? 3 out of 10 women, 30% of women have an orgasm from a penis in the vagina. That is not a lot. 7 out of 10 women do not. Okay. So, and then just so you know, we might as well get through all the statistics. Yes, 70 to 80% of women can have an orgasm from a hand or a mouth. So that's 7 or 8 out of 10 women, and 95% can have one with a vibrator. All right. So that's the statistics, right? Now, when you lose weight, when you lose weight, things kind of shift around a little bit. They just do. You have skin in different places. You have less skin. So, what was working for her before might not be working for her now.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know if she had other surgery either. I just had the panniculectomy. I can't even say the damn thing, which was the worst surgery I've ever had in my whole life, by the way, guys. I don't know if you've done it, but anyway.
Yes, I have not had it. The panty.
Okay.
Oh,
it's when you take all the skin away from the abdomen area.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Ow.
If I tell you that my bariatric surgery was nothing, and this was I was hit by a Mack chalk, this was terrible. And I was petrified about doing it because I was afraid it might affect the nerve endings on anywhere in my vaginal area.
Oh,
but it didn't. We're good.
Okay.
But whenever you're doing any kind of surgery, things are affected. But I would say that the question is the way she had an orgasm before may not be the same way she's having an orgasm now.
Yeah.
But you know what? Move over and start using a vibrator, girl. That's my answer to you. I can't do a whole, I could do a whole podcast just on vibrators. Right. But the reality is that women shift through their whole life, how they have orgasms. Mm-hmm. They just do. And so, and people have this ridiculous idea that I have a lot of ridiculous ideas actually, but they have a ridiculous idea that an orgasm from a penis in the vagina, that's the gold standard orgasm.
Yeah.
And the orgasm you have from a hand or mouth, that's a silver standard orgasm. And the orgasm you have from a vibrator, well, that's the bronze runner up. I don't even, you're doing an award.
No.
But the reality is that an orgasm is an orgasm is an orgasm. And however you have an orgasm is great. And so you may have to play around a little bit to figure out what works for you now that might not have worked for you before. But, so it's hard for me to answer that. I wish she was in the room and I could ask her more questions. Yeah.
I mean, I would like to go off of that a little bit of so I noticed with myself is the fact of I have to have double stimulation for me.
Internal and on the clitoris.
Correct. Mm-hmm. For me. to actually like have like an orgasm. Like, because I feel like there is a little bit of a difference between a clitoral orgasm versus the internal, like the feeling at least.
Okay. So let me address that for a minute.
Okay.
I love this conversation so much.
There used to be like Freud was the one who said there's a clitoral orgasm and there's a vaginal orgasm. There's two different, right? Right. So that's not what's happening. That's not what's working. Let me explain exactly what's happening. So your clitoris, you think of your clitoris as the little nub that you see sticking out, right? So it's like above your vulva. Your vulva is the external area. If you stand in front of the mirror, what you see outside and the lips and everything, that's the vulva. The vagina is the hole that you go with, the penis goes in. This is like quickie anatomy lesson by Sheva. And then you see this little nub, which is the clitoris. Okay. Now the clitoris, that is actually only a teeny piece of the clitoris. The clitoris actually looks much more like a wishbone, and it has the curia, these like legs that go deep inside that are like, that fold in and are inside your body, which can get touched by stimulation on the vulva or stimulation inside the vagina from the bottom. Right. Okay. So there's no such thing as two different kinds of orgasms. There's probably 5,000 kind of orgasms. And what's happening when you have an orgasm is that you're getting stimulation, neurological stimulation. Blood comes into the area and the nerves are getting more and more stimulated. And when the nerves have so much stimulation they can't handle it, they shoot off, they explode, little fireworks. And that's what you're experiencing as orgasm. Okay. Now, in your vagina itself, you have about 2,000 nerve endings. In your vulvar area, you have another 2,000 nerve endings. And your clitoris has 8,000 nerve endings. Holy shit. Okay, so that gives you some sense, right? Yeah. So now, depending on where you're getting the stimulation from, it's going to feel different. Okay. So you know what I'm saying? Like, so, and some people have orgasms from nipple stimulation also, right? Because the nerves are running from their nipples. Some people get very few, but some people think their way to an orgasm, right? Because their brain has nerve impulses as well. But if you have a finger inside your vagina or a penis inside your vagina, and you're getting stimulation on top of the clitoris, you're just getting different stimulation from lots of different places. It's going to feel different than if you just have stimulation from this part or this part. Does that make sense?
It does. It does.
Okay. Does that I think change your whole perception?
What it changes is what I like the double stimulation, obviously, a lot better than the other.
Go for you. And that stimulation with like a hand or a mouth with something inside of you, or a vibrator on something inside of you?
Normally it's a hand or a mouth.
Right. And then something inside.
And then something inside of
like
me.
Your hand and his penis inside of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that works. Right. Exactly. A lot of people like that. I mean, that's why the Rabbit, the famous vibrators, that's called the Rabbit. Like, that's what that is. That's internal and external stimulation. Yeah. Honey, you are not the first person to notice that works really well.
I figured, because me and Kelly were on some sort of tour that we were doing, we watched.
Oh yeah. It was like this documentary on
I think it was just called Sex Education, to be honest.
Yeah. It was something. They went into like the anatomy and like the background, the history of women's sexuality. And it was very interesting. I don't even think we finished it.
We didn't. We have one more episode left.
Yeah. But we have shows that we watch only when we're like traveling.
Yep.
But yeah, we learned that there is all different sorts of stimulation. And I mean,
the fact of like, there's like an internal, but like what people would call like ringing the bell or like hitting the G-spot or whatever, like what that really is.
Yeah. So the G-spot is something else we could talk about if you want, which is that, so if you if you slide your finger into a vagina and you like pull it up, like think you're sliding it until about the second knuckle and you're doing like this come hither motion at the top, you're going to feel something that feels kind of spongy. Okay. That is the G-spot. Everybody has a G-spot. Like there's, and it's named after Dr. Graffinger. So that's why it's called the G-spot, because Dr. Graffinger found it.
Okay.
So, but just because everybody has it doesn't mean that everybody finds it pleasurable. Okay. So like everything else in life, like some women love having their ears, the spot behind their ears rubbed. And some people really like their nipples getting tweaked. And some people are like, get your freaking fingers off my nipples. It drives me crazy. Do you know what I mean? Like, so some people really enjoy that area being stimulated, and some people find nothing pleasurable about it. It tends to be near your urethra, which makes it sometimes feel like you need to pee, which can again feel really good because it's stimulation coming from another whole set of nerve endings. Or other people don't like it. because either they're afraid they're going to pee or, which, brings us to the whole sex towel to conversation, but that is another conversation.
Definitely want to talk about that.
We do. We do.
Yeah.
We do. Let's just switch it to that.
Yeah.
let
Let's talk about the sex towel.
What's up with this? Yeah, we need to know.
The sex, everybody should have a freaking sex towel. I don't even know, sex is messy, right? It's messy from him. It's messy from you. You don't want to be hesitant about leaking your lubricant. You don't want to, if you squirt a little or pee a little or whatever it is, you want to be able to let go and let loose. And if what's stopping you is that you're afraid you're going to have a wet spot on the bed, then that is ridiculous. So everybody should have a sex towel. And I've had people say that they use all kinds, again, on social media, when I posted about sex towels, which gets great response, people are like, oh, I use my doggy thing, this they have for dogs. I don't have a dog, but they have these pads that you put under the dogs, that. And she's like, they're disposable, right?
Yeah.
Right? She said, I use those. They work amazing. And then I have other people say, why are you cracking up? Terrible idea.
Because I could totally envision it.
Well, one, I have them right on the outside of the store. On my pantry shelf that are used for dogs though. But I just envision me putting it on my bed and I'm just like, I can't.
Oh, I can totally see that working though.
Oh, it will totally work because any type of fluids,
liquid,
it will just meh.
Yeah, it'll just soak it up. And then you don't have to worry about who's on what wet spot.
Same thing with tucks. I think they're called tucks. The ones that they use after surgery that you put under yourself but those look a little clinical. So often people just like having a towel.
Yeah.
And people have great stories about this one woman who said to me, she's like, I have my sex towel and I just washed it or whatever. And my kid was like, oh, I'm taking this to the beach. And she's like, or maybe she hadn't washed it. I don't know. Anyway, it's so because usually people like a towel that they can kind of tell is different than their others. You don't need to. You're going to wash it. What's the big deal? But it's kind of fun to have a sex towel.
I'm sure.
Keep it near your bed. Keep it near your bed with your lube and your vibrators and your handcuffs.
I mean, I have a blanket that we use because then that way we just take the blanket off and just throw it in the wash.
There you go.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't matter where you are.
So it's a sex blanket.
It's a sex blanket. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It may have Hogwarts on it. It's fine.
I mean, they're having fun.
Yeah. We deal with it.
I love the Hogwarts thing. Oh my God. That's amazing. I'm putting this on Instagram later today. Somebody told me she has a sex towel that's a sex blanket that says Hogwarts on it. Oh my God.
I
could not love it more.
It literally says
Gryffindor.
welcome home, or you're at home if you're at Hogwarts or something like that.
Oh,
I love that.
Oh, that's great.
That.
Come all over that.
Only know, right?
Yeah. Well, but then it's big enough that it doesn't matter where we are on the bed.
That's what I was thinking with the towel thing. I'm like, I'm gonna need a big towel.
You take a beach towel and you fold it in half, and that's pretty big usually.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're doing serious rolling around, in which case you can just grab it. But yeah.
I mean, it's a sex blanket.
I think I'll do a sex blanket.
Yeah. And it's softer.
It is softer.
It's not scratchy. So
go you. I think that's great.
Question about squirting.
Yes.
We're gonna just go into it. One, because I feel because I don't, so I feel weird that I don't, but then I hear people that do, and then I just don't.
Just throw me under the bus.
I did not say.
I'm just saying.
You do yourself by saying that.
I'm just saying, throw me under the bus.
I don't want to.
Because you're a big squirter?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Some women squirt, some women do not. Period. End of story. That is just, and I'll tell you what it has to, first of all, there's so much argument in the literature about what you're actually squirting, right?
Yeah.
It's some combination of natural lubricant from your body, Skene's gland fluid, which is around the area of that G-spot, and urine. It's some combo of that.
Okay.
Right.
And often women have more of it as they get older just because there's a little bit more urine squirting out. But some people find it extremely pleasurable and some people feel like it is what it is. But it doesn't mean that the orgasm is better. It's just the way one woman works versus another woman works. That's all, really. So, and you two are case in point.
Yeah.
One of you squirts and one of you doesn't squirt, but your orgasms are both an orgasm is an orgasm is an orgasm. They're great, however they come. So what I hate is when I feel like women are working really, really hard to squirt, because I feel like they somehow think like there's a holy grail of squirting going on there. And that's like only trying too hard to have orgasm a certain way just destroys the fun.
That's what I'm thinking. Like,
well, because that's been my thing, is that like I hear that like, well, you hear all the time from dudes. So they're like, well, you haven't been with me yet. I make every girl I'm with squirt. And then I'm just like, that's not real. That can't be real.
it's just in their head.
Because like I've heard statistics that it's lower rated for women to squirt.
Mhm.
So I'm like, what? You're just like a diamond, like you're getting like 100% rate on this. It just doesn't make sense to me. And then it makes me think that like I should be then, right?
No,
or is it just my partner that can't
it's a
get
small
me?
percentage. I don't know the percentage, but it's a small. I think it's under 20%.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
But what's more telling about this is that these guys who say, oh, like, let's go back to the orgasm from intercourse, right? This one really drives me nuts. Oh, every time I'm with a woman, she has an orgasm from intercourse. I once had a client, this was hysterical. It was actually, it turned out to be a sweet story, but the woman comes in and she goes, I want to have an orgasm from intercourse. And I'm like, okay, but you know, I'm not a magician. So let's have a conversation about this.
Mhm.
And she said, but my boyfriend, I said to her, really only 3 out of 10 women have an orgasm. So you're in very good company with 70% of women.
Yeah.
And she said, but my boyfriend said to me, every woman he's been with has an orgasm from intercourse. And I looked at her, and this is not like a unique, I was like, okay, we have a number of options here. Either he was with an incredibly skewed sample. It's possible.
Mhm.
2, they were faking it.
Mhm.
Highest possibility, because we know how many women fake it.
Mhm.
Or 3, you know, he isn't, maybe he's just saying that. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, she came back in the next time. It was fascinating. And she said to me, but I've had so many of these conversations. She said, I went back and I had a conversation with him about it. And he said to her, give him credit. I didn't say they were having an intercourse. They were having orgasms from intercourse. I said they were having orgasms during intercourse. So a lot of them were using their own hand or a vibrator.
Oh,
There you go.
so then she felt more comfortable because she didn't feel like the odd duck out.
Yeah.
But you know, when guys say that, it kind of enrages me, because a woman being able to have an orgasm from intercourse, it has to do with where her clitoris is situated in relationship to her vagina, the angle of her vagina, the angle of his penis in the vagina. Like there's it's just bullshit if a guy says, any woman I can have an orgasm, you know, every woman I have intercourse has an orgasm. And I'll say, yes, all that tells me about you is that you're putting so much pressure on them, they're faking it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I did for like 10 years.
However long you had to do that for.
Yeah.
Really? Go
Oh yeah.
you.
It was not good.
That's not good.
It is. Yeah. We could do a whole episode
See, my
on not
sex
faking
was
it.
good with my ex. It just was not as often as I would want.
Yeah.
That was our problem.
I feel like you need to have that connection. You need to feel connected
I feel
to
connected through
your
sex.
partner.
Yeah. Through not just through sex, it's through touch.
Yeah.
I'm very like, that's my love language is touch.
Yes.
It's number 1 is touch and number 2 is active service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my boyfriend is exactly like she is.
I mean, we were best friends. I actually knew her boyfriend longer than she's known her boyfriend.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've known him for like 16,
Well, you should just be
17
having sex with her
years.
boyfriend.
No, they
No,
would never
thank
work.
you.
They
No,
would never
thank
work.
you.
She would destroy him.
I'm just kidding. I'm
Yeah.
just kidding. That was
She
a
would
joke.
destroy him.
That was a joke.
No,
I mean, I
but
would destroy
he,
him.
yeah, she would. But he's like that. He needs that touch and that constant like reassurance almost that we're connected. But I'm not that way.
You need the sex less than he does.
Yes.
But
yes.
you love him and you want to be in a relationship with him, and you know that it feels good. And so you do the things you do to get yourself turned on in order to have sex with him.
Yes.
I'm so curious. I'm going to go circle all the way back to the beginning of this conversation where you said that I guess you had approached him and said, do you want to have sex now or later?
Yes.
Did he mind that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because it felt too transactional to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it would feel better to him if you said, I really want to have sex with you, but I just need some like heads up. Like, are we doing it now, babe? Or are we
Even
doing
that,
it later?
I think would bug him. Like he wants it to be like very, like I just jump on him. And I'm just
he wants touch and that leads into sex.
He wants me to jump on him and like say, and like not say anything, but just basically we're having sex in my head, like jumping sex. So, and that doesn't come easy for me. Like, That's what she
right.
said.
And I think, honestly, I think that's a conversation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because I think once maybe understands it, it could two things. One is once he understands it better, he can be more kind of understanding. And two, you may want to make a decision in your head sometimes to like go after him because it means a lot to him. Right.
Yeah.
Even if it makes you feel a little awkward or a little uncomfortable or whatever. But like, think about it as, what's your love language?
I don't know.
You should probably figure that out.
Well, the point is, think about it as like,
she's like, wait a minute,
bringing him flowers. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's a nice thing to do for him to make him feel wanted.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I need to, number one, figure out my love language.
Yes.
And number two, just
make him feel wanted.
Yeah. Just jump on him.
Just making him feel wanted, because I know because you said it earlier in the show about like how to talk too.
Yeah.
Like you don't know how to talk, that like sexy talk.
Yeah, no.
So it's like, if you don't know how to do the sexy talk and you don't know how to initiate, like that takes away the want part.
Oh,
like
I know.
So
completely, because he can talk sexy to me and I'm like, thanks. No, I don't really say thanks, but it's like, but that's what I'm thinking in my head. I'm like, aw, thanks. And then I'm
Do
like,
you like it? Do you like it?
I mean, sometimes, yeah. Sometimes I'm like, dude, I'm literally working right now. I can't do anything with what you just sent me. So.
Right. But when you're having sex, right.
I love you.
This goes so back to the first piece of the conversation about like, why is sex important?
Yeah.
Because it's less about what we're doing and more about how you're making the person feel. So if the person feels wanted and desired, like, can you imagine if he never wanted to have sex with you, how that would feel?
I already know how that feels because we had a 3-week period of him testing me.
And how'd that feel?
Awful.
Okay. There you go.
So you want to make sure, and everything's a balancing act, right? Like you don't want to be constantly having sex when you don't want to have sex, but at least when you are having sex, you want to make him feel like loved and wanted.
Yeah.
Because that's really what the sex is about.
Well, I know when I told my partner, because like they're a lot like Kel, like, and which is interesting because they are a lot like, but anyways, he's an ex for a reason. But the deal is that like I needed the talk part. Like I needed just to feel the want and the desire. If I could just hear it, and I would tell him, I'm like, okay, so you have thoughts where you're like, fuck, I want to fuck my wife right now. Right. And he's like, well, yeah, like all the time. And I was like, well, then act on those. So what I would say to you is that if you feel that way towards your partner, just act on them. Because then it makes them feel good.
Right. But
like
she
when you
doesn't
have the
necessarily
feeling.
feel that way. That's the problem.
That's the problem.
At all?
No, like there's certain times where I'm like, oh, it would be nice to have sex right now. But
she's a responsive. She's not spontaneous. She doesn't necessarily spontaneous. Like it sounds like your husband is like, I really want to have sex with you. And you're saying, good, then please express that to me in all different kinds of ways, because that's what turns me on, being wanted. Right.
Yes.
Right. And
I will preface
what Kelly is saying is I don't spontaneously want to have sex.
Yeah.
And so what I'm saying to Kelly is, but you know how important it is for the relationship and it feels good. So get yourself to want sex. Do what you need to do to get yourself to want sex, and then be there with him and express that to him. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Got it. And then what my other question is like, I don't know, you can definitely probably answer this. So why is it with certain people, because we've all had multiple partners. So like, why is it with certain partners, like all of a sudden, like you'll feel like vibrating and like excited, but then other people, it's like nothing.
Like, wow.
Like, what is that?
Yeah. Everybody wishes they had that answer. So there's a few different pieces to that. And then maybe we need to wind down because we have been talking for a long time, girls.
Okay.
And my throat is like going.
Okay, that will be a part 2, probably a 3 later.
Everybody.
Okay, anytime you want. This is so much fun.
Yay.
So very often early in relationships, you get that vibrating feeling, right? You don't know the person, and that has to do with the awkward again. Like you don't know the person so well. Like you have all these fantasies stuffed onto the person that you think about the person, and you know, so there is, and your hormones are raging like crazy early in a relationship. So often that's a piece of it. The other thing is that we don't want to admit it, but we really like, a lot of us, not everybody, alpha men, aggressive alpha. Like if I tell you the number of women who are in my office saying to me, I married this guy and I love him and he is a sweetheart and he's everything I want from a partner, but I'm still fantasizing about the guy from high school who, rode a motorcycle and is in jail now. Right. Like, so, there's something about sort of the aggressive, the strong, which doesn't necessarily make good life partners, but really is very hot and sexy. And I think we women have a hard time acknowledging that to ourselves and using that in a way, either through our fantasy life or letting our partners actually be that way. Like the men in our lives are often like, they've been spending their entire life trying to like become less aggressive. And yet that may turn us on more in the bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's a lot. It's like a dance.
It's like a dance.
But we could talk. This is a really interesting topic. It's so funny. I have a chapter in my book about this. And called Complicated Emotions and how we, and it was the hardest chapter to write because, it's tricky in our day and age to say that women like to be with men who are a little bit like more aggressive. But I think that for the most part, that is true. That's why 50 Shades of Grey, like remember when 50 Shades of Grey came out and everybody loved that book?
I loved it.
And that doesn't mean that you want to be with an asshole. It just means that there's something sexy about power dynamics, even in both directions.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I learned with my ex-husband is like what I need now is I need someone that's like a provider and a protector. Like streamline, mainly protector. Like I need someone that's willing to like protect me if anything goes down.
Yeah.
And it's completely opposite of what my ex-husband was. So
right.
I can tell.
I'm sure. Yeah.
I was going to say, like, I've been so much more happier being with people.
This guy.
Mm-hmm,
yeah. And you should stay with this guy because he's great, but you just need to figure out how to make the sex work sometimes in that situation. And that may be realizing that there's another side to him that he's, that's really there that we, or being in your head a little bit more or playing games with him. Like there's a lot of ways to do that. But if you're asking me why some people are sort of more naturally a turn on than others, I think, unknown, new, your erotic brain does not like repetition and it does not like safety and it does not like, comfort, which is what I talked about before. So you gotta learn to use that erotic mind. We did not even discuss fantasies next time.
No, we didn't.
That part 2, we will do all fantasy stuff.
Yes.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
So much info.
Yes.
so much fun. And I feel like I dumped too much info. So I apologize if it was all
not
over,
at all.
But it was so fun. And it's so great to be with people who are so open.
Yeah. Oh, we're open books.
Yes, we are.
I can't wait to read your book.
I know. I was like, we're going to have to get that book.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're going to link it below.
If you send me your snail mail address, I will send you autographed, signed
really?
books. Oh yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes,
thank you. We cannot, I'm totally stoked to read the book.
Yes.
So, and we'll have it linked below for everybody else who wants to purchase a book. This is incredible. And we cannot wait to have you back for part 2.
Yes.
I had so much fun and I can't wait to come back for part 2.
Yay. All right. Well, we love you guys and we will see you next time. Bye.